Good morning.
Hey,
Hi.
back in bed. Um, so it's December 21st, and yeah,
Oh.
and we're getting all excited about Christmas. But we wanted to do a post about what's the big deal with Christmas. Because I think a lot of people know a little bit about Christmas, but I
Mainly
think,
Santa and presents.
yeah, but I think most people don't understand um, the real, the real deal with Christmas. So we wanted to share a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, we're probably going to do a couple of posts, but today we're going to start with the prophecy. We've been watching the Star Wars movies as a family, building up to watching the new one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much prophecy in Star Wars, right? It's like, you know, the chosen one will restore balance to the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a trope that's in all kinds of creative work and all kinds of
Oh, yeah. I mean, the
fiction.
prophecy's been around forever
Yeah.
in Oedipus.
Mm-hmm. So, but the biblical prophecies about the coming of the Messiah or the Savior um, go back, well, to the Garden of Eden, but we're not going to go back that far today. We're going to go back to the prophet Isaiah, who was about 700 years BC, around there. But what I think is really difficult for people is to realize that these are real people. This was recorded history. Um, I think that a lot of people are easy to associate Jesus
With Oedipus.
with Santa Claus. uh, and Santa Claus was also a real person. Well, Saint Nicholas was a real person, but
Right.
people want to create Jesus into folklore.
Mythology is
Yeah,
created.
but the Jewish people who wrote the books of the Old Testament were definitely not writing mythology. They were definitely not writing um, folklore or any of that. They were writing recording history and
Mm-hmm.
guarding that with with extreme diligence. And so, if you were to ask a Jewish scholar, what's the deal with the Book of Isaiah? Is that are those things real? The suffering of the people or the exile or any of these things, and like there's no question they'd be like that is prophecy, but that is also history. Like
Mm-hmm.
so. Anyway, just to clarify, so 700 years before Jesus, Isaiah wrote in chapter 9, starting in verse 2, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressors. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For unto us a child is born, and to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing it and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this." So, this was a very exciting prophecy for the people of that time because they were very excited about a new king from the line of David who was going to bring great joy and peace
And
um,
rural.
and rule, and that they were going to rejoice. Um, I obviously they had no clue that this wasn't going to come true for 700 years.
Or that it would come true really differently
Yeah.
than what they imagined.
But the part of this passage that you normally hear preached in church is verse 6: "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. So that looks good on a Christmas card. They don't usually include the part about every warrior's boot in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning in the fire. Just doesn't work the same on a Christmas card. Though maybe we'll put that on our Christmas card next year. We don't do Christmas cards.
We do. So. I usually do them. I didn't this year.
Okay. So I want to keep reading. Now this is Isaiah 42. Here is my servant. Again, this is talking about the coming Messiah, whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. He will not falter or be discouraged until he establishes justice on the earth. In his teaching, the islands will put their hope. This is what the Lord God says, the creator of the heavens, who stretches them out, who spreads out the earth with all that springs from it, who gives breath to its people and life to all who walk on it. I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take your hand. I will keep you and make you to be a covenant for the people and a light to the Gentiles, to open the eyes that are blind, to free captives from prison, to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. I am the Lord, that is my name, and I will not yield my glory to another or my praise to idols. See, the former things have taken place, and the new things I declare. Before they spring into being, I announce them to you. So, if you don't understand the sort of the perspective of the prophecy of prophets, but the prophets of old were literally speaking the words of God to the people. So this is God talking. This is the prophet writing, but it's God talking through the prophet. And so he's proclaiming a huge shift. See, the former things have taken place. New things I declare. Before they spring into being, I announce them to you. That's exciting. What else was super exciting about this? This, in his teaching, the Messiah's teaching, the islands will put their hope. Meaning like the far-flung, this prophecy is coming to Israel, to God's chosen people, but he's saying that the word is going to spread, that everywhere, even the distant islands are going to hear about this. He will not shout or cry out or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. He will not falter or be discouraged until he establishes justice on the earth. I think if you're anything like me growing up, I was just like, man, that's a lot of justice. There's a lot of justice. What's going on here? Like is God's Messiah, Jesus, was he gonna like right all the wrongs, and were people gonna stop doing wrong things on the earth? Because clearly if that's what he was going to do, he failed, right? Because the world is full of injustice. So you could be tempted to read this and be like, well, they must be talking about the future or something that hasn't happened yet, because the world is still full of injustice. But let's keep reading. Isaiah, this again in Isaiah, all three of these are in Isaiah. Chapter 9, chapter 42, and here's chapter 53. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him to be punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray, each has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. This is where it gets really good. guys, the justice that Jesus came to serve was not a horizontal justice between people and people.
Mm.
The justice that Jesus came to pay for was a vertical issue. Okay, we all have been given the law, right? Doesn't matter if it's the entire Old Testament law or the laws of your country or whatever. We all know what's right and what's wrong to a certain extent, and we've all done what's wrong. No one's confused about that. I don't think anybody in honesty says, yeah, I'm perfect. No one, right? So we all know we have transgressed. We know that we fall short. The justice issue was between us and God. We had transgressed. And so the justice that Jesus came to instate was for us. He came to pay our penalty. So that now there is justice. God demanded perfection or death. And that might sound harsh, but God created everything, so he's the one that gets to decide. But then God himself came down and paid the penalty for all humanity. That's the story of Christmas. That's the gift that came on Christmas morning. That's why the angels were shouting. That's why the heavens were proclaiming his glory, because his goodness, his mercy is that great. Anyway.
And I think that too is why there's peace, right? So he's the Prince of Peace, and we don't often feel that necessarily right now, but I think the more that we get in touch with the fact that justice was carried out, so there was wrong done, and there was a judge who could judge perfectly and without fault, so there's no one was falsely accused. All the evidence was present, and so a just sentence was put on the earth and on every individual. And so anyone who's wronged you, they have been tried. And the penalty for that was totally just. It was death. It was wrath of God. And you can be sure that the punishment for how you've been wronged has been carried out completely and fully. It was the wrath of God poured out on Jesus. And I think that's what people long for, right? So there's a trial and people long for the guilty justice to be punished,
right?
Because that's what should happen. And so that is sort of what happened. What happened, the deeper truth is that the punishment was carried out and the payment was paid in blood and in the death of Jesus. Because what God really wanted was not for everyone to be punished and separated from him. Like, that wasn't the plan. The plan was for us to be with him and to have a relationship with him. And so the only way for that to happen is for someone else to take the punishment for us. And that is why Jesus came. And so he came so that all the things that we've been wronged, all of that is taken care of. And then all the ways in which we've done wrong is also paid for, so we can have a relationship with God. So when the payment for sin is paid for with another person, we'll just use our relationship since this is about Mike and Eileen. So God already paid for all of Mike's sin. I know, right? And all
Hallelujah.
Mine. But for me, as a wife and a person, I look at my husband and I'm like, you wronged me this way. Like, you did this thing that was not okay. And that's really hard. And he has the potential to do things that are wrong in the future.
Sure, I will.
He has the ability to hurt me
later today.
in more ways than anyone else could hurt me. And all of that has already been paid for. Which is why I can live at peace with my husband.
Right. So if you're sick and tired of seeing Prince of Peace or all these things written on cards or all this other stuff, it's because you don't understand. You don't understand the magnitude of the peace that Jesus brought.
And
okay?
I didn't
And we
get
didn't
a lot of
either.
that
We
until
grew up
really,
in church,
really recently.
30 years in church, hearing all this stuff, but never really understanding until the last couple of years what
the depth of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is really exciting. So in the Old Testament, God gave the Jews all these specific laws, right? Do this, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to read you another thing, final thing for today, from another prophet who was closer to Jesus in time than Isaiah. This is Jeremiah 31:31. And this is the proclaiming of a new covenant that's coming. This is
really good.
So the new covenant is like the whole deal. This is like what we're going to talk about on this channel till we die. So this is like the banner, right? Jeremiah 31:31, easy to remember. Go look it up. The days are coming, this is 650 years before Jesus, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand and led them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant that I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness, and I will remember their sin no more. It doesn't explain in Jeremiah how, it doesn't explain, but Isaiah had already prophesied it, and now we know on this side of history how. Because see, God is just. It would not be just for God to allow punishment, to allow transgression to go. Like, would it be just if you took a grievance before a judge and the judge was like, but I like that person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge them. Like, that's not justice, right? Everything that's done wrong needs to be paid for, needs to be made right.
Mm-hmm.
So God wasn't just like, your sins aren't that bad, whatever. Like that, no. But he knew no one else could withstand the wrath.
And also have relationship.
And he wanted the relationship. He wanted to make it possible for people to know and love him. So he wrote himself into the story. This is why Christmas is amazing. This is why Christmas is exciting. And it's for everyone. It's for you. It's for every Muslim, Hindu. It's for all people. It says it's for all the Gentiles. Gentile just means other nations other than Israel.
Obviously, all the Jews.
It's for all of us. Okay? The Creator, the one who spread out the heavens and the earth and gave life to everything, he wrote himself into the story 2,000 years ago as a baby to live and to teach and to die, to pay our penalty, to establish justice and to bring peace. This is the peace. And I know this is a lot. I don't know, but this is what we're learning, and this is changing our lives. It's changing everything about our lives. And
which is amazing because we grew up in church.
Yeah. So don't worry if this is overwhelming, and we're going to keep talking about this for months, years, who knows. But like, we just wanted to just kind of bring this piece before Christmas so that you guys can understand what is actually happening and what is actually exciting about Christmas. And the reason we give gifts to each other at Christmas time is because God gave us the most incredible gift. And I know this is trite, everybody's heard this, but like, they're like, yeah, he gave us Jesus. But most people think that Jesus came to give us a bunch of more laws to try and live under. No. Jesus came to pay the penalty for everything wrong that has ever been done. Past, present, future.
Right. So like if you don't have peace, then you don't have Jesus.
Yeah, and you just don't understand what has been offered to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really sad that a lot of people claim Jesus, but they
have no peace.
They don't have peace. And so I think that it's really important to know that if you don't have it yet, you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there. And anyway, just keep searching for that, and you will find it, because that's how that works. Wise men still seek him. It's true, though.
Anyway, our hope and our prayer for anyone watching this is that some bit of the truth that you didn't understand before comes through, and that it will bless you. And I mean, anyway, the truth is amazing, and the truth will set you free.
Yeah. Merry
All right.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.